Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, history doesn't whisper this moment. It shouts it from the rooftops. For years, the skies have been a chessboard of power, prestige, purpose. And today, India has moved its queen boldly, decisively, and the world is watching. We were offered the so-called crown jewel, the mighty F-35, wrapped in glitter, sold as the ultimate, a marvel of technology. But India looked beyond the shine. We measured not with our eyes, but with our experience, our wisdom, and our sovereignty. We saw not just the price tag in dollars, but the cost in independence. And we said, no, this is not just about airplanes. This is about principle, about telling the world, we are not a marketplace for secondhand promises. We are a force with our own vision, our own path. And so in the great theater of defense, we step forward with the Su-35, a machine of unmatched agility, range, and raw power, not a compromise, not a hand-me-down. A partner in the skies worthy of our ambition, worthy of our pilots, worthy of our future. Ladies and gentlemen, this is more than a weapons deal. It is a declaration that our skies will not be guarded by strings attached, but by wings unbound, that our decisions are made not in the echo of foreign pressure, but in the clarity of national interest. That India, strong, sovereign, steadfast, will write her own story in her own ink, on her own terms. The F-35 was offered. The Su-35 was chosen. History will remember which choice belonged to the brave. I tell you now, from the runways of our air bases to the hearts of our people, the sound you hear is not just the roar of jet engines. It is the sound of a nation taking flight on its own wings. Thank you. India's rejection of the F-35 offer marks a moment that will be remembered as a defining turn in the country's defense history. For decades, global arms deals have not just been about buying machines. They have been about aligning with certain powers, accepting certain conditions, and often sacrificing a slice of independence for the sake of advanced technology. The F-35, built and marketed by the United States, carries with it not just the promise of cutting-edge stealth and combat capability, but also the political weight and strategic influence of its country of origin. Many nations have accepted the deal, some seeing it as a ticket into elite defense circles, others simply unable to resist the lure of owning what is touted as one of the most advanced fighter jets in the world. But India chose a different path. The choice to walk away from this offer was not made lightly. It came after careful evaluation of performance, maintenance demands, operational autonomy, the geopolitical implications of tying such a key part of its defense to a single foreign supplier. This decision is historic because it stands as a clear statement that India's defense strategy will not be dictated by prestige alone. The F-35's capabilities may be impressive, but they are also bound by operational restrictions, data sharing limitations, and a reliance on foreign supply chains for upgrades and repairs. For a country like India, which values strategic autonomy and self-reliance, accepting such limitations could mean ceding control over when and how its own air power is used. The rejection, therefore, is not just about the plane. It is about the freedom to decide without having to seek permission or navigate hidden conditions in times of conflict. It is about making sure that the skies above India remain under India's own authority, free from the influence of outside powers. By saying no to the F-35, India has also shown that it is not swayed by the common narrative that most advanced automatically means best fit. Every defense decision is about matching technology to needs, terrain strategy, and long-term security goals. In this case, the country recognized that the F-35's design priorities do not align perfectly with its operational requirements or its defense doctrine. Rejecting it, therefore, was not a rejection of progress, but a deliberate step toward a future in which India defines its own standards for what makes a fighter jet the best. This choice will likely inspire both domestic pride and international discussions as it reinforces the image of India as a nation that acts on its own terms, even when faced with high-profile offers that others might accept without question. The decision to prioritize sovereignty over showmanship reflects a deep understanding that true national security is built on independence, not on the appearance of prestige. In the high-stakes world of defense procurement, it is easy to be dazzled by glossy brochures, grand unveiling ceremonies, and promises of unparalleled technological marvels. The F-35, marketed as the pinnacle of fifth-generation fighter technology, is surrounded by a halo of international status. Owning it is often portrayed as joining an exclusive club, a symbol of belonging to a certain global power structure. Yet, India looked beyond the marketing glamour and assessed what such an acquisition would mean in terms of long-term operational freedom. By rejecting the lure of symbolic status, India affirmed that its defense decisions would not be dictated by global perception, but by the cold, clear assessment of its strategic needs and the preservation of its autonomy. Showmanship in defense deals can be seductive because it often comes with political signaling, demonstrating alignment with a certain bloc, implying a closer relationship with a superpower, and projecting modernity to both domestic and international audiences. But these optics can be misleading. A deal centered around prestige might lock a country into dependency, reducing its ability to act without the consent or cooperation of others. India's defense philosophy has increasingly emphasized Atmanirbhar Bharat, or self-reliant India, and accepting an aircraft like the F-35 would have entailed heavy reliance on U.S. maintenance systems, technology transfer controls, and operational protocols. Even the most advanced technology loses its value if it comes with hidden constraints that limit how and when it can be used. By putting sovereignty first, India ensures that the control over its air defense capabilities remains firmly within its own borders. This means no foreign government can dictate the terms of engagement or withhold critical support at a moment of crisis. It also allows Indian engineers, strategists, military planners to have a decisive say in upgrades, customizations, and deployment strategies without being dependent on the manufacturer's approval. This independence is not only practical but also symbolic of a broader political will to define India's place in the world without succumbing to pressure, persuasion, or the glamour of elite circles. The rejection of the F-35, despite its prestige value, sends a clear message that India's strategic priorities are rooted in reality, not in appearance. It tells both allies and adversaries that the country values its decision-making freedom above all else, that even the most tempting offers will be measured against the yardstick of sovereignty. This approach reinforces the idea that strength is not about joining the most exclusive club. It is about having the freedom to choose your own direction, no matter how brightly the spotlight shines on another path. India's selection of the Russian Su-35 was not a fallback option, nor was it a decision made for the sake of convenience. It was a calculated, deliberate choice that reflects a careful balancing of performance, adaptability, and long-term strategic fit. The Su-35 is widely recognized for its exceptional agility, long operational range, and powerful engines that allow for high maneuverability even in demanding combat scenarios. Unlike some Western aircraft that come with rigid operational frameworks, the Su-35 offers India greater flexibility in deployment, customization, integration with existing defense systems. This compatibility matters because India operates a diverse fleet. Having an aircraft that can be seamlessly incorporated without forcing a complete overhaul of infrastructure is both cost-effective and strategically wise. In a region where air superiority can shift the balance of power in moments, a fighter jet that can respond rapidly, adapt to multiple mission profiles, operate in challenging conditions is a critical asset. Choosing the Su-35 also reflects an understanding that modern warfare demands more than just stealth features and cutting-edge sensors. Demands sustained operational readiness and the ability to adapt quickly to evolving threats. The Su-35's design emphasizes durability and versatility, making it suitable for long-term operations without heavy dependence on foreign logistical chains. This is particularly important for India, which has to maintain a strong defensive posture across multiple fronts and in varied terrains, from high-altitude Himalayan regions to vast coastal areas. By selecting a fighter that meets these diverse demands, India is ensuring that its air force remains agile, capable, and ready for both defensive and offensive missions. The decision also strengthens India's strategic partnership with Russia, a country that has historically been a reliable defense supplier and willing to offer technology cooperation without imposing restrictive conditions. This relationship allows India greater freedom in customizing the Su-35 to meet specific operational requirements, something that would have been far more challenging with platforms tied to tightly controlled foreign systems. Furthermore, the Su-35's performance record in other operational environments demonstrates that it is more than capable of holding its own against contemporary fighter designs, ensuring that India's Air Force remains competitive in a region where multiple nations are modernizing their fleets. By bringing the Su-35 into its arsenal, India is not just adding another aircraft, it is reinforcing a doctrine that values capability, adaptability, and strategic independence over purely symbolic acquisitions. The move signals to the world that India's choices are guided by what works best for its defense architecture, not by the temptation of global prestige or political alignment, that the country is willing to forge its own path in pursuit of true air dominance. India's refusal to bow to foreign influence or political pressure in its defense procurement decisions underscores a steadfast commitment to safeguarding its strategic autonomy. In the realm of international arms deals, political leverage often plays a significant role as technical specifications. Nations offering high-end military equipment frequently attach not just contractual terms, but also implicit expectations ranging from diplomatic alignment to foreign policy concessions, rejecting the F-35. India made it clear that its defense policies are not open to manipulation through the lure of advanced weaponry or the promise of inclusion in exclusive geopolitical circles. This position reinforces the idea that India will not compromise on its sovereignty in exchange for short-term gains or global recognition. Foreign pressure in defense matters often comes disguised as strategic partnership offers, where one side hopes to tilt the other's policies through deep technological or military dependency. Accepting such arrangements can create vulnerabilities, especially if the supplying country holds the power to restrict access to spare parts, software updates, or critical operational capabilities. India, with its unique security challenges and geographically complex environment, cannot afford to be placed in a position where a foreign government could influence when and how its defense assets are deployed. By resisting the F-35 deal despite the intense diplomatic push surrounding it, India has signaled to the world that it will make decisions based solely on its own national interest. This stance is particularly significant given the shifting balance of power in the Indo-Pacific region, where military capabilities are as much a deterrent as they are tools of combat. A country that allows external forces to dictate its defense readiness risks weakening its own negotiating position in both peace and conflict. India's ability to independently assess and select its military hardware ensures that its responses in any scenario, whether defensive or offensive, are determined entirely by domestic strategic considerations, not by the operational permissions or restrictions of another nation. The choice to remain immune to external political pressures also reflects India's broader vision of a multipolar world order where nations can pursue partnerships without surrendering decision-making authority. It strengthens India's credibility as a nation capable of independent thought and action, qualities that resonate not only with its citizens, but also with other countries seeking balanced, mutually respectful relationships. The message is clear: India values cooperation, but will never accept conditions that undermine its autonomy. And in the face of even the most sophisticated offers, its decisions will always be anchored in the principles of self-reliance and strategic freedom. The choice to reject the F-35 and move toward alternatives like the Su-35 stands as a powerful symbol of India's commitment to self-reliance in defense. For decades, India has navigated a complex web of arms imports, often relying on a variety of suppliers to maintain its military edge. While this approach has ensured access to diverse technologies, it has also created dependencies that can be exploited in times of diplomatic tension or geopolitical crisis. By making a decision rooted in the principle of self-reliance, India is reinforcing its long-term vision under the Atmanirbhar Bharat initiative, which seeks to build domestic capabilities and reduce critical dependencies on any single foreign partner. The rejection of a high-profile, widely coveted fighter jet like the F-35 makes a clear statement that India will not measure its defense strength by the prestige of owning what others call the best, but by the practicality of maintaining control over its assets and technology. Self-reliance in defense is not just about producing weapons at home. It is also about ensuring operational freedom. Even the most advanced aircraft loses value if its use is subject to another nation's approval or restricted by the terms of an export agreement. In the case of the F-35, the operational ecosystem is deeply tied to U.S. infrastructure, software control, and maintenance networks. This would inevitably limit India's ability to modify the aircraft to suit unique mission profiles or integrate it fully with its indigenous defense systems. Choosing an alternative that allows greater freedom in upgrades, weapon integration, tactical deployment aligns perfectly with the goal of keeping decision-making power firmly in India's hands. The symbolism of this decision resonates beyond the military sphere. It signals to the domestic audience that India is serious about standing on its own feet in matters of national security, reinforcing public confidence in the government's ability to protect sovereignty without compromising on capability. On the global stage, it serves notice that India is charting its own path in defense modernization, unafraid to diverge from the choices made by other major powers. This approach also supports the growth of India's defense industry. Partnerships that encourage technology sharing and local production become more attractive when the country is not locked into rigid, foreign-controlled systems. In essence, this decision reflects a deeper philosophical commitment that India's security should be safeguarded by systems it can control, maintain, and adapt without external interference. It is a reaffirmation that strength lies not in the symbols of power others choose for you, but in the tools you choose for yourself, in the ability to use them freely to defend the nation's skies, land, and seas. The decision to reject the F-35 and opt for the Su-35 sends a strong, unmistakable message to the world that India's military and political strategies are driven entirely by its own interests and long-term vision. In the arena of global defense, arms deals are rarely just about acquiring technology. They are also about signaling alliances' priorities and positions in the international order. By choosing the Su-35 over platform as globally celebrated as the F-35, India has effectively declared that it will not be swayed by trends or pressured into purchases that do not align with its unique strategic requirements. This is a demonstration of confidence. Confidence in its defense planners, in its geopolitical judgment, and in its ability to stand apart from the crowd when necessary. The world's military powers take note of such decisions because they reveal how a nation perceives itself and how it intends to position itself in the global power structure. This move also challenges the prevailing notion that the most technologically hyped system is automatically the most suitable choice for every country. By rejecting a platform backed by powerful diplomatic campaigns, India has shown that it will not make decisions simply to fit into the framework of Western-led defense ecosystems. Instead, we'll seek systems that offer real compatibility with its operational doctrines and that align with its broader foreign policy stance. This approach resonates with other nations seeking to maintain strategic independence in an increasingly polarized world, potentially making India a model for countries trying to resist the gravitational pull of superpower influence in military matters. Internationally, the decision will be interpreted as a reaffirmation of India's multipolar worldview, a belief that the future of global order should not be dominated by any single bloc or alliance. The choice of the Su-35 demonstrates that India is willing to diversify its defense relationships and maintain a balanced network of partnerships, ensuring that no single country holds a monopoly over its security assets. This balancing act is crucial for India's diplomatic flexibility, allowing it to engage constructively with multiple powers without compromising its freedom of action. For allies, this decision signals reliability. India will stand by its own judgment even when faced with immense external pressure. For adversaries, communicates resilience, a refusal to let outside forces dictate how it prepares for defense and conflict. And for neutral observers, it serves as proof that India's actions are not reactionary, but part of a carefully considered strategy that prioritizes autonomy, capability, long-term national interest over symbolic alignments or momentary political gains.